The New York Times is reporting that former President Biden told them that he had orally granted all the pardons and commutations issued at the end of his term, meaning he did not personally sign the official warrants for clemency. Biden told the Times that he did, in fact, make every single one of the clemency decisions himself, but says that the autopen was used to sign the warrants since there were a lot of them. Now, according to the Times, Biden called Trump and Republicans liars for saying he was incapacitated and his aides used the autopen without his authorization. Alicia, I see you're shaking your head. Your response to this?
Well, I have so many responses to this because we're supposed to believe this at this point. It's really hard to swallow that statement there, that he said that he made the decision on, quote, every single one, when we know from so much reporting that there was a limit to his time where people had access to him. So there were decisions that were made, quote unquote, after hours. We know that for a fact. And so to say that it was every single one, I'm going to have to see the receipts on this one because, and this is the question before Congress right now. They're trying to figure it out. That's why we have a line of aides and staffers coming up to testify. Who knows what we'll find out, but it's an interesting statement.
David can barely sit in his chair. You guys aren't seeing this at home. He is literally dying to get in here, David.
You're both onto something American people need to pay attention. Time, math. How many commutations and pardons in one day, and how many hours would it take for him to do this individually? It strains incredulity. Remember Hillary Clinton said willing suspension of disbelief? Just do the math on what it would take for him to do that individually when he couldn't cognitively get through more than a few hours a day of work.
You know, why weigh in on this now? I mean, isn't this just adding fuel to the fire?
Exactly what was going through my mind, Lisa, because these individuals, look, Ron Klain, others are expected to go up and be deposed on Capitol Hill. And, you know, he is not doing them any favors. I mean, look, we watched the former president fight with the short stairs on airplanes, stages at, across the country, fighting with teleprompters. It was all very evident in front of us. And now he's choosing to fight with the autopen because he doesn't like it.
But notice something he said there.
Yeah.
His exact words matter. It's very lawyer-like and Clinton-like. I orally did this. This is why, watch very carefully, because I've seen this play from the Clintons, from others. They come out and they make a very clear lawyer but somewhat ambiguous statement that you really can't challenge and prove. Orally is a key word.
By the way, as the journalist in me, so it's worth noting that the interview, we're told, from the New York Times was only about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to expose himself too long because, surely the New York Times is wanting to know, too, like, okay, if we sit with him for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, will this become confusing for him? Will he exhibit some of that mental acuity decline? But apparently, this interview with the New York Times is only about 10 minutes, we're told.
It's a tightly controlled dodge.
Well, also, where's this heading, Alicia?
Well, I think it's heading to I don't recall. This is a setup for his aides once they get in there before the committees and they start answering questions when they say, oh, so what about this act of clemency here? Do you recall him orally telling you? It's very easy for them to say, to be able to, relieve themselves of any sort of commitment to the truth by saying, I don't recall.
Remember the elderly man with Robert Hur? I mean, this is setting up the you're right on. I'm going to put that money on in Vegas that you're right. This is setting up the I don't recall, the ambiguous statements, and what do you have to prove?
Although that made me so mad because he took the classified documents when he was a vice president, or when he was a senator. United States senator, and then when he was a vice president, when he was completely with it. So that really frustrated me from the special counsel, Robert Hur. Griff, does this signal to you that someone's a little bit worried about these investigations that are taking place on Capitol Hill?
Oh, you bet. You bet. What is the motivation?
By someone, I mean Biden.
And by the way, here, this is the sort of stuff I'm talking about, that out in Colorado Springs, it was all in full display, Lisa. But now, listen, I can understand and appreciate, particularly if Dr. Joe Biden or others that are close to the former president are worried about his legacy being tarnished. But at the same time, there is no motivation to speak directly to the New York Times about this matter when your former aides are going up under oath on Capitol Hill. And so I think I think Alicia is onto something. I think there's some sort of calculation here that tie the two together, but I don't think it's going to work out to at least the former president's end of maybe trying to convince people something other than what we all saw with our eyes.
But they already know this.
Yeah.
The person who testifies, Jill Biden, the person who was always next to him, not just Ron Klain. And it's not what you allege, it's what you can prove. That's how they try to get away with it.
Well, it certainly raises the stakes for the House Oversight Committee.
So please remember to like, subscribe, and share this channel. You know, we're doing good, but we want to do better. I want to be able to offer you guys more. So please remember, like, subscribe, share this channel, and also leave a comment. I will respond back to as many as possible. We're doing good as far as receiving comments, but we want to do better. So let's go ahead and leave a comment, and so that I can get back to you. Let's engage in some good conversations until I'm able to get where I can do live video and actual real debates. But until then, let's just go ahead and do the usual. Okay, so today's conversation is about the autopen during Joe Biden's presidency. So imagine this: thousands of pardons, big names, Hunter Biden, Anthony Fauci, and even some of Biden's own siblings. Now, here's the twist. Did Biden even sign any one of those pardons? No. According to reports, these sweeping acts of clemency were authorized using an autopen. An autopen? A machine that copies a person's signature. Not only was this approved by Biden's chief of staff, it may have happened while Biden himself remained entirely hands-off in the physical process. And that's serious because, you know, we talk about transparency, honesty, integrity. And as far as under the Biden administration, that doesn't seem to be the case. And what's so funny is we all know that Biden was incompetent. He wasn't in his right state of mind because, like I said before, Biden was a racist back then when he was competent. He was a racist, and he said a lot of things, and he has authored or he co-authored policies that affected certain communities, especially the black community. He is a true racist. However, he was not competent. And it's so funny to see black people jumping for joy for Joe Biden when he has caused more harm than good, But, during Joe Biden's time, well, after this, they're all saying that it's kosher and that the president made the decisions and the autopen is just a technicality. But let me ask you this. If leadership come down to a stamp of authority and that stamp is automated, how much power does the president really have?
Joe Biden lied repeatedly, saying he would not pardon Hunter. Donald Trump lied repeatedly, telling us Project 2025 was not real. So politicians lie. And I don't care at all about Joe Biden saying, run me my kid before I leave office. Give me my son. Hey, if a felon can be president and then turn around and appoint people with essay charges to be on the cabinet, I say all of that going high when they go low stuff, we are all the way in the gutter. And Trump, you got the audacity to tell somebody that they're abusing power. Wasn't that you in 2020 who pardoned Charles Kushner, the father-in-law of your daughter Ivanka, who was sentenced to 2 years in prison for his 04 charges, including tax evasion, campaign finance offenses, and witness tampering? Was that you who did that? Yeah, that was you. Shh. Shut up.
We have some major breaking news. Donald Trump is now claiming that the pardons President Biden gave to members of the January 6th committee are void and that those people can actually be investigated and prosecuted now. Just moments ago on social media, Donald Trump said, quote, "The pardons that Joe Biden gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by autopen." In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them. Therefore, the people in the committee should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. So basically what Donald Trump is saying here is that he's going to direct his Department of Justice to go after people that investigated him. His political enemies, like dictators do. Like, all of this is a total lie. The idea that these pardons were not done in a proper way and that Joe Biden didn't know about them, total fiction. But Donald Trump is just making this up to justify his very clear attempt to go after political enemies. Trump is a wannabe dictator, and he'll now use the DOJ to target these people. He's laying the foundation right here.
So let me talk directly to those of you who think this autopen scandal is no big deal. You're saying Biden made the decisions and the autopen is just a tool. I hear you. But here's the thing. When executive authority gets reduced to a mechanical signature, it invites a whole new level of scrutiny, because leadership isn't just about making decisions. It's about accountability and presence. And there's a reason people are asking, was Biden even present for this power move? Now, some say this is just a setup for Trump to retaliate, to go after the investigators, the critics, the political opponents. Fair, but two things can be true at once. One, yes, Trump might use this moment to his advantage. But two, the method behind these pardons is deeply suspicious and worth legitimate concern regardless of party. This isn't about defending Trump. It's about defending process, transparency, and the principle that power shouldn't be exercised in the shadows or with a robotic hand. Because if it's legal but lacks integrity, it still erodes trust. And in an era where government feels increasingly disconnected from the people, that trust is everything.
Oh, Lord, the auto pen is a hot mess. We obviously know this scandal is big in all of history. A president who does not know what he's doing. Now, Biden's staffer admits that the former president was never aware of the full list of individuals they pardoned with the auto pen. Thousands of criminal pardons were never approved by the president, but instead by officials at the Bureau of Prison and his staffers. This, according to New York Times. Not only that, this is what Biden is saying.
Listen in. The New York Times is reporting that former President Biden told them that he had orally granted all the pardons and commutations issued at the end of his term, meaning he did not personally sign the official warrants for clemency. Biden told the Times that he did, in fact, make every single one of the clemency decisions himself.
Did he?
But says that the auto pen was used to sign the warrants since there were a lot of them.
Oh, really?
Now, according to the Times, Biden called Trump and Republicans liars for saying he was incapacitated and his aides used the auto pen without his authorization. Alicia, I see you're shaking your head. Your response to this?
Well, I have so many responses to this because we're supposed to believe this at this point. It's really hard to swallow that statement there. That he said that he made the decision on, quote, every single one. When we know from so much reporting that there was a limit to his time where people had access to him. So there were decisions that were made, quote unquote, after hours. We know that for a fact. And so to say that it was every single one, I'm going to have to see the receipts.
She is not the only one who wants to see receipts. The fact of the matter is that Biden's staffer now is telling New York Times that he didn't have a clue. Even Carrot Top, his press secretary, states that she has limited access to this man. So you're expecting us to believe that he signed all of these auto pens or approve all these auto pens? I don't think so. It's time to dig deeper.
Check this out. So now it's being said that Biden didn't have the mental capacity when he signed all of the pardons that he signed. Y'all like the video and check this out.
Outrage over this decision just about 20 minutes before Trump was officially inaugurated. And you predicted in our conversation in December that you thought President Biden was going to pardon his brother James. But back in 2020, President Biden was asked by CNN's Jake Tapper what he thought about reports that President Trump was considering pardoning his adult children as well as himself. And then this is what Biden said at the time. It concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. So let's tackle both of these concerns here. A, what do you think the precedent is that this move sets?
I don't think it sets a precedent. I can promise you that President Trump's not going to issue preemptive pardons. That's just outrageous. And the fact that Biden did it, and again, I don't even think Biden did it. I do not believe that President Biden possesses the mental capacity.
So you remember when that doctor came up and said that Joe Biden couldn't be held accountable because he didn't have the mental ability to go to court or anything like that, and they wouldn't prosecute him because of that situation. At that time, I was wondering why is he not out of the White House? If he doesn't have the mental capacity to even go to court or to defend himself, how do we expect him to defend America? And Democrats just threw that to the side as he continues saying that he's capable and he can do the job. And we now learning that he wasn't capable of doing anything. And now we learned that he didn't even have the mental capacity to sign any pardons, let alone his son. You know, he probably didn't even know that, because he probably didn't even know that his son was going to jail. So, or was found guilty. So, this whole thing to me is, and I'm sorry to say, it's just a joke, because I don't think anything's going to happen. Yes, this is coming out, the autopen, Dr. Fauci, and all of this other stuff. But when all is said and done, nothing's going to happen. These guys are going to go on about their business. It's like the Epstein thing. We heard all the rah, Epstein, we're going to release the files and all of this. And then when push comes to shove, all of a sudden, you're still concerned about the Epstein files. That's and take it from somebody who's a huge Trump fan. I'm the one that goes around saying Trump a real American hero, and I get called all type of names. But it bothers me that President Trump will not allow the American people, especially his MAGA supporters, who was looking forward to the Epstein file. And if President Trump is on that list of people that went to the island, I would have admitted it from the beginning and would have stated, hey, when I went out there, I saw no such thing as little kids. I went out there for business. I was on the plane and so forth. And I believe there's some other high-ranking people that also went out there. And they probably paid a lot of money or so forth so that their names do not get revealed. But, I digress. I think that this whole thing will just blow away, and then we'll be on to something else new. Like, this came out just when the Trump administration was taking a lot of heat for the Epstein files, and now this comes out, and now everybody's saying, wow, Joe Biden, the auto pen and so forth. And we now focused on that. However, I don't think that it's going to go anywhere. And I truly believe that when all is said and done, everybody who they pardoned, everybody that Joe Biden supposedly pardoned, even though he doesn't know who he pardoned, and I'm sure he doesn't know. In fact, he probably don't even know what's going on right now. But I would say that everybody that he pardoned, they will still remain pardoned, and life will just move on. Because that's how it works in Washington. Nobody's held accountable, and except us. We're held accountable. We have to follow the law while the others don't, And so that's the one complaint I'm having with President Trump right now. He's about law and order, and I'm with him 100% on that. But don't tell us that it's law and order when others can get away with breaking the law. Okay? We're holding illegal immigrants accountable. I'm 100% with that. We are holding citizens accountable for crimes that happens in this nation. I'm 100% with that. But when you're in an elite group, like I said, in Washington, D.C., and you could do certain crimes and so forth, you could receive a pardon. You imagine how many people pay just to receive a pardon? So you could receive pardons and clemens. You could receive not clemency. You can have your sentence commuted or pardoned. Now, understand the difference between your sentence commuted and pardon. When you're pardoned, you get to walk out of prison wherever you're at. You get to go home. You have no record. It's wiped out. So when they do a background check, there is nothing, because your whole sentence was, your whole criminal activity was pardoned by the president. But it has to be on a federal level, not a state or so forth. It has to be federal. When your sentence is commuted, you could be on death row, and if they commute your sentence, you're not going to be getting murdered. You're just going to be sitting in prison for the rest of your life, basically. So, you pick your choice. Like, you're still not free. You'll just now be able to go sit down and hang with the people that's probably going to attack you anyway. So I digress. This whole pardon thing is becoming very abusive. It's a power that the president has, but it's starting to become very abusive. And like I said, people pay just to receive. What was that guy? His name was Mark something. I can't remember, but he paid the Clintons how many millions just to receive a pardon, and he got it. Because the Clintons are some greedy people and they love money. But yes, on that note, like I said, we're not going to see anything happen, and I would love to see that something serious happens, but we know it's not. They're going to have hearings, and they're going to talk all this loud stuff and saying things that's going to make people say, oh, wow, they have our back. But in reality, that's all it's going to be. It's just a show. It's just to show us that they're the best actors on the planet, and nothing's going to happen in the long run. But we'll see. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and call this a day on this show here. I'm glad that you could join me. Please remember, like, subscribe, and share this video. And, also leave a comment. Let me hear from you. I'm ready to talk. We can talk about anything. Okay? If you have something that you would like me to talk about, please leave me a comment, or you can reach me at themarcperspective@gmail.com. And I'll be more than happy to get back to you. And whatever thoughts you have, let's talk about it. Okay? All right, guys. You guys have a great day. Hope to hear from you soon. Peace.